Hey there, Dr. Alan Christianson here. I am really jazzed to introduce you to Susan Pierce Thompson. So, I've talked about in my life what a big thing obesity was and what a struggle that was, and what a big factor weight is for so many people. And I've seen that so many have done well on following the reset diet, following some principles. There's always some to where this is a hard thing, to where it's bigger than the straightforward steps, and many common things don't really make a big difference. Susan has gone through struggles in her own life with food addiction, and she's come to become the authority of helping those that have wanted to give up hope or thought that nothing else would really work. And I just wanted to get some feedback from you and hear a bit more about your story. And
Yeah, I think it's great that you talk about your own experience with weight, and I think weight is one of those things where if you haven't been obese, if you haven't experienced what it's like to wake up every day in a body that is cumbersome. I remember when I was struggling to tie my shoes in the morning and wearing slip-on shoes because tying shoes and asking my husband to help me tie shoes was too much
wow.
of an issue, and binging at night and trying over and over and over again to find another, really to find the oomph in me to try yet another thing, and sometimes getting to the point of real excitement about another approach and then watching it work for a little while and then experiencing that twilight zone time warp of now it's 6 months in the future and I'm as fat as ever, and what happened to all my resolve and all my dedication, and
blame yourself, and
here I am again. And so for me, I had a history as a drug addict as a teenager, and I was not addicted to trivial substances. I was addicted for quite a while to crystal meth, dropped out of high school, and then a couple years later out of high school, as a high school dropout, got addicted to crack cocaine and bottomed out on that, essentially homeless in San Francisco. And I knew what addiction felt like in the brain, like without a doubt. And for me, very early on, I got clean and sober when I was 20 years old, and after that my academic career took off. I ended up going to community college, which you can do. Thank goodness for the community college system. It sort of gives people like me who burn out on their life a segue back into society. Then I transferred to a very prestigious 4-year school, did well there, ultimately got my PhD in brain and cognitive sciences with the aim of figuring out why some brains go so far off the rails like mine did. And all while I was getting that education, I was binging, sometimes purging, gaining weight, losing weight, but then gaining it again. So the trajectory looked like a good span of years in the stock market, right? Up and down, but overall up, you know? And where every 2 or 3 years, my downs were where my ups used to be. So it was just up and down and then up and down and up and down. And while that was happening, I was thinking to myself, this is just like my drug addiction.
The experience was similar to...
Yeah. I mean, like I would be eating until the wee hours of the morning. I'm old enough where you might remember in the olden days when the TV would be on till the wee hours of the morning.
The test pattern.
Those big
I remember the test pattern.
with bags and boxes around me, empty pints and, half-eaten, pots of pasta and, obliterated pints of ice cream and a, 2/3 eaten bag of marshmallows, like all sitting around me. And at 4 a.m. thinking, I'm using drugs. Like there's no difference here. I am not sober.
Wow.
So anyway, I did finally find a method of losing weight that worked for me, but it was in the midst of watching various principles work and not work for a lot of people. And I ended up helping over a period of 10 years, several hundred people to lose all their excess weight and keep it off. And I also became a tenured psychology professor teaching a college course on the psychology of eating. And I had this unit on the neuroscience of food addiction in my course. And I would teach my students these principles, and then I would go home and in my private life, just for fun and for free, teach people how to lose weight. I would talk with them in the morning, hear their food commitment, what they were going to eat for the day, help them get all the way down to goal weight and learn how to maintain it. And then in my morning meditation, this was back in 2014, I got the I don't know what to call it, the mandate, I guess, from the universe, write a book about what you know. That it was
more need to know this.
Yeah. And so I started trying to write a book. Now I'm just a college professor. Like I have no online anything, right? And I bought a book at Barnes and Noble on how to write a book proposal. and I'm
awesome.
going through it systematically, and I get to this chapter on your platform. And I'm Googling the word platform because I don't even know what it means. Like, what is a platform? And like, I don't know if I started to cry or if I just felt like crying inside, but I was like, I can't just write a great book and have it be a bestseller. Like, it doesn't work like that. So I started an email list, and that was August 5th, 2014. I started an email list, and I just started sending out free information on the psychology and neuroscience of sustainable weight loss. And it started to grow, and eventually the people on my list asked me for a course, you know, on weight loss. Like, they said I need more concrete step-by-step instruction, and I'd been doing that for years, again, in my off time, so I knew how to do that.
Starting with yourself, and yeah.
Totally. So I delivered that course, and I started to track, I'm a research scientist by background, so I started to track the metrics, and I started to believe, based on what I've seen in the literature of the weight loss community, that my weight loss program is the most successful program on earth. Like, I started to see people actually getting down to goal weight and staying there. And so my first course had 40 people in it, and then the next one had 353 people in it. A few months later, 2,200, and it just started to snowball from there. And now we have 220,000 people on the email list, and it just keeps mushrooming. And so I'm just kind of on this mission to help those people that nobody else wants to help, because on the surface it just looks like they're not following directions. You know, you tell them, don't eat this and don't eat that, and they're like, if I could do that, I would have been thin a long time ago. You know, like, that's the kicker, is how do I eat this and not eat that? Like, I know that I shouldn't be eating donuts and I should be eating broccoli. It would be nice if it were that simple, you know, and those are the people that I want to help. Like, I know what it's like to not be able to control the food that you put in your mouth. Like, I get that. I know what it's like to eat with tears streaming down your face, you know, and to go, why am I eating this food again? So those are the people that I'm on a mission to help, you know. It's not the people who gained 5 pounds over the holidays and just want to take it off and get back to their healthy habits and have no particular pain around that. That's not my, you know, there are other people who can help those people. I'm here to help people who have a much bigger struggle than that.
Wow, that is so beautiful. You know, we've always said that your health is everything. You know, if you have your health, you can have 100 goals, but if you don't, you only have one. And yeah. And don't give up on it. You know, don't ever think that something you've been stuck with, just because you've been stuck and just because you've tried half a dozen diets, gotten nowhere, that doesn't mean that it couldn't work. And that doesn't mean that this couldn't turn around, because that's exactly who you've been working with, is those who've been in that place.
Yeah.
So yeah, never give up on your health, and having the relationship with food, what physically sustains you and feeds your body, what could be more critical? So yeah, I wanted to share Susan, and we'll keep you all informed about her program. And
there's a quiz that people can take, actually,
Great.
because people, I think probably from what I've said already, someone watching would have a sense, but I want to let them know actually how susceptible their brain is to the pull of addictive foods.
If they could possibly be in an addictive brain pattern.
Exactly.
Okay.
So the scale just goes from 1 to 10. So a 1 on the susceptibility scale basically experiences not thinking about food very much, except when they're hungry, and then they find some food, and as they eat, they get satisfied and they lose interest in food after that, and they go back to their life. That's a low on the susceptibility scale. On the high end, you've got people who obsess about food a lot. When they start to eat, they frequently lose control over the amount they eat. So they'll go in thinking they're going to have 1 piece of pizza, committing to having 1 piece of pizza, and still end up eating 4 or 5 or the whole pizza. And they lose control over how much they eat. They don't feel satisfied. They might binge. They're preoccupied with food. And so there's a spectrum from 1 to 10. And I think it's the first step in having the possibility ultimately of attaining food freedom, is to know kind of what brain you're working with, because really different strategies work for different people on that end of the spectrum. And also it just sort of empowers you. Again, if you don't, like, you as a physician, you know, like, if you don't have a diagnosis, it's really hard to find a treatment. So you know, that's the first thing I want people to do, is know where they're at with their brain. Yeah.
Perfect. We'll get the quiz.
Cool. Thanks. It's so good to talk with you.
I love your mission.
Oh, thank you. Likewise.
Take great care of yourselves. We'll talk real soon.